as one of the World Cup's most controversial tournaments comes to an end in Qatar this weekend, Gary Lineker suggests the next competition in 2026 is going to be another test for your moral compass as the USA takes over as co-host. While commentating in Qatar, he's spoken about the deaths of workers building stadiums, homophobia and women's rights. He's now told a podcast, "I think pretty much every country, including our own, has got issues, and we're off to America in 4 years' time with Canada and Mexico. But obviously," he says, "America's an extraordinarily racist country." Well, I think it's a bit of a leap for good old Gary Lineker to think that the BBC will be sending him the next World Cup, because he might have come across the wrath of Tim Davie one too many times by then. But if he does go to America, I'll certainly be looking forward to the Match of the Day Human Rights Special, Part 2, you know, live from an Alabama death chamber, you know, before they execute the latest paedophile.
And I would do a special on Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what Alan Shearer's got to say about Roe v. Wade. You know, Gary Lineker is fast disappearing up his own backside, I think. I don't think he'll actually be working for the BBC in 4 years. I think even the BBC have seen through his hypocrisy, his complete and utter disregard for their rules and regulations. He's been upbraided several times in the last few months. And he's now, obviously, because he now reports on human rights, he can no longer use the defence that he only talks about sport. Therefore, he doesn't have to obey their rules on social media. So I just think Gary, I mean, he's been proven to be a massive hypocrite. He took 1.6 million from the Qatari government to commentate on behalf of Al Jazeera's sports arm, beIN Sport. And he's just, for me, a virtue signaller. I mean, he's the king of virtue signalling, and I just think it's ridiculous. Having said all of that, the actual substance of what he's saying is something that I think pretty much everyone around this table has said when discussing Qatar over the last 4 weeks. You know, we all said, yes, Qatar probably shouldn't have been hosting the World Cup, but we all pointed out plenty of other countries who were in the finals, in the World Cup finals, have pretty suspect human rights records, particularly on criminality of homosexuality and so on, which is sort of the point he's making. And I'm pretty certain you have talked about the racism in the States, having lived there yourself. It is a much more racist country than Britain, but I've talked about it in context. The problem with Gary Lineker is he only finds context in things that he thinks will influence his kind of mates, the champagne socialists of, you know, London and the rest of the world. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, he hasn't said America's a very racist country, so why would Meghan Markle move back there to get away from the racism in Britain? He'd never say that, would he? Well, these are the two stories we're talking about. But the point is he doesn't give it that context.
But what he's saying, and as they said, we have all said this, and he's correct, America is a deeply, well, in parts, deeply racist country. But it's not just America that's having it, it's North America. So Canada are going to have it, and Mexico are going to do it together. Mexico has a huge problem with cartel gangs and drugs being peddled across the country. They should be being attacked as well. And of course, in the US, you've got the abortion laws, you've got gun crime and people by gun treaty and they're killing each other. It's mental. But what I want, like with Gary, I agree that the amount of criticism that Qatar got, there should be the same level, the same energy shown to North America, because also, they are no better.
I think it's worth remembering I lived there as well for a long time, and it's worth remembering...
in California.
I did. It's not one country, it's 52 countries, and they're all very different. And, of course, the bi-coastal regions are much more integrated. Certainly New York is a multicultural, multiracial city, as is Los Angeles. But if you go into the middle, of course, it's a completely different story. So, yeah of course, it's America has huge problems in terms of race, and, you know, we need to call it out. And
maybe we just separate. Maybe we just take it out of sport, though. I mean, the whole point. I mean, you were actually arguing before the World Cup in Qatar that we shouldn't be critical of Qatar because it's a football tournament. Yeah. So I mean, why are we being critical of any other place?
Would it actually be fair to say that after a very rocky start in Qatar, it's actually gone quite smoothly?
It's been a great World Cup.
And also that they've had a lot less trouble than you would in any sort of European setting, and particularly in a British setting. They've had no like riots afterwards.
Well, do you know what's
no one's
funny?
tanked up with
all
alcohol.
the riots have happened in Europe.
Something to be said for that.
All the riots have been fans celebrating either in the Netherlands or in France, or well, not so much in this country, I don't think.
And that's,
but, you know,
I mean, look, in any sort of semi-dictatorship, they do have a way of controlling the populace that democracies don't. I think it's worth bearing in mind also. I mean, we've seen that the corruption story has blown up again with our friends in Brussels and Qatari money.
Bucket loads of cash in people's houses.
Exactly. So I think it's not fair to say that America is as bad as Qatar, because Qatar clearly won the World Cup through nefarious and corrupt ways. I think we've seen. I think that's pretty well documented. I don't think anyone's going to sue me. I think I'm pretty safe.
Clip that.
CC Qatar.
Very good.